Hare Krishna, dear Vaishnavis. Welcome to day 5 of our pre-Janmashtami celebrations. Do you know what this means? Janmashtami is one day closer. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna sings, "Of lights, I am the radiant sun. Among the stars, I am the moon. Of purifiers, I am the wind. I am the original fragrance of the earth. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Feeling the warmth of the sun, the soothing comfort of the moon, the cool and fresh breeze of the wind on our face, and the wholesome smell of the earth after it rains, we can remember the warmth and comfort that Krishna provides, taking us on an epic adventure of seeing Krishna every day and everywhere is Prabhupada's sweet, caring, and gentle daughter, Mother Jaganathesvari. She is from the UK and is a great mentor for the Grihastha ashram. Mother Jaganathesvari served in India and in the UK alternatively for 3 years, and then in South Africa for 11 years, before returning to settle in the UK. She lives near the manor with her husband Vishwambar Prabhu. She has 2 grown-up sons. She published The 4 Goals of Family Life, a book about Grihastha ashram based on the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. Her current projects include further developing the Krishna Marriage Project, which is an international team of matchmakers to help devotees meet compatible partners for marriage. Another project is that she's currently working on another book about relationships and spirituality, something we can all look forward to. Dear Vaishnavis, let us begin this epic adventure. A warm Hare Krishna to you, Mother Jaganathesvari.
Hare Krishna. So shall I start?
Please.
Thank you very much for your warm welcome. So, the topic I have chosen is seeing Krishna everywhere. In this very difficult times of this world pandemic, with Janmashtami coming up, it's difficult for devotees now to go to the temple and see Krishna. Janmashtami time, it's the time that usually all the devotees look forward to going to the temple and enjoying all the festivities. But because in many countries of the world, places of worship are in lockdown, so the festivities have had to be streamed down, and many devotees will be celebrating Janmashtami in their own homes, either alone or with their families. So it's difficult to have to do that. But at the same time, it's a good opportunity. In one sense, you could say that's a blessing in disguise, that Krishna is giving us an opportunity to learn to see him everywhere, not just in the temple. And so all of this, the several months that the situation of the world, where people have been spending much more time at home, not going out so much, and devotees are not having so many opportunities to come together, to do kirtan together, to take darshan, and to go out for preaching. So this is like an opportunity for us to become more introspective, say, to go deeper into our Krishna consciousness. And so we know, it's like we know theoretically, we know that Krishna is everywhere. The Bhagavad Gita tells us so. But to actually experience that, it's another thing. So we need to actually learn to not just understand it theoretically, but to actually experience that. And so it is a sign that when we feel the presence of Krishna, that is a sign that we're advancing in Krishna consciousness. And someone who is in mature Krishna consciousness, an advanced devotee, is constantly feeling the presence of Krishna around them. So for impersonalists, they may feel an impersonal presence of Krishna in his energies, his spiritual energies. But for personalists, for devotees, they feel the presence of Krishna not just through his energies, but also they feel his presence personally. Krishna says that he is in every atom. Krishna is in our hearts as a super soul, as the Paramatma, and he is in the heart of everyone. So one way to experience the presence of Krishna is in our own hearts and also in the hearts of others. So this means learning to see. When we talk about seeing, it means, it doesn't mean seeing with our material eyes. It means seeing internally with spiritual eyes. They refer to as the Premanjana in the Brahma Samhita. It said, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yat Shama Sundara Machintya Gunaswarupa Govindamadipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So one can see Govinda within and without by developing a transcendental, loving attitude towards him. Because Krishna is the source of love and he is the object of our love. And so it's a matter of developing a transcendental vision, a spiritual vision. So this is something that we know we are supposed to be developing, a spiritual vision. But it's not always easy because we are living in the kingdom of Maya. We are influenced by the three modes of material nature. And we are in these bodies, we're in these material bodies, we have these physical senses, the eyes, and so the natural tendency is to see the external, the material external, to see the body, to see that different bodies just like in that verse from the Gita, Pandita Samadarshana. So the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater. Now we tend to see them differently. We tend to treat them differently. Of course, we have to treat them differently. It's not that we talk to the animals and expect them to have a conversation with us. But the point is that there's a soul inside that body. Inside every living entity, there's the soul and the super soul. So Krishna is accompanying the soul through every incarnation, through every body that we pass through in all our millions of lives. Krishna is accompanying us, and he's accompanying every living entity, because we're all part and parcel of Krishna. So that's why devotees, they are kind to everyone. It's said, there's one verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam where it's talking about Grihastha ashram. It says that the Grihasthas, they actually see all the animals, they see them just like their own children, and they feed them. And it gives examples of different animals, including even the snake. So normally when we see a snake, we run away. And of course, if it's a poisonous snake, we should be careful. But the point is to see the soul and the super soul in every living entity. And that's why Grihasthas, they distribute prasadam to everyone. And devotees are very careful not to hurt any living entity, not even an ant or a fly. They don't want to hurt anyone because they see the soul and the super soul inside that body, inside that heart. Now, so Krishna confirms in the Bhagavad Gita that he is everywhere and he is in everything. There's one verse, chapter 9, verse 4. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina matstani sarva bhutani na chaham te shravastita. Krishna says that by me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So this is one of Krishna's own statements to Arjuna, where he's explaining how he is everywhere. In his unmanifested form means that we can't see him with material vision, but he is actually everywhere throughout the entire creation. And we are all existing within him. He says, all beings are in me. So we are his separated energy. We are separated in the sense that we are not one with him, like we don't merge with him as the Mayavadis think that we merge with God. So we all have our own individual personality, our own individual identity. But at the same time, because we're coming from Krishna, because he is the source of our existence, so we are also a part of him. we can't really be separated from him. So when we forget about Krishna, then that's when we go into illusion. That's when we go into Maya, because we forget that we are part of him. We forget our eternal relationship with him. We forget that we are Krishna's eternal servant, and we turn our back on him, and we get absorbed in the illusions of Maya. And then we get tossed and turned by the material energy. But when we are one with Krishna, in the sense that we are tuned in with Krishna, that we feel close to him, that we feel his presence, that we feel that he is guiding us, protecting us and sheltering us, when we feel his love protecting us, then we are rightly situated. And when we experience that, that's when we actually feel happy and peaceful. So when we are experiencing anxiety and disturbance of the mind, that means that we're absorbed in our false ego, and we're forgetting about Krishna. We're forgetting that Krishna is actually there with us. And as soon as we remember him, like when we chant his holy names, or we feel his presence, then we feel happy, then we feel peaceful. Just like when we get worried about something, about some situation, we get disturbed about something that's happening around us. But then we take shelter of Krishna by chanting his holy names. Then we become pacified. And then we remember that there's nothing to worry about, because actually Krishna's in charge. And he's just testing us. And he's just giving us all these tests to help us to remember him and to bring us closer to him, so that we can eventually get out of this mess that we've got ourselves into in this material world, and we can join back with him again and be back where we're supposed to be. So this is how Krishna is present for the devotees, for all his devotees. And because we tend to get absorbed in our daily lives, in different things that we have to do, and we're not always remembering Krishna. Sometimes we're just absorbed in our activities. Of course, all of these activities are actually devotional service. If we try to remember Krishna while we're doing the things we have to do, then all of these activities are also devotional service, and so they become successful. When we are engaged in Bhakti Yoga, then that activity is accepted by Krishna, and we become purified. And we also have the books, all of the books that Krishna has given to us to help us understand him. He says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetitapta. Says, whoever understands the nature of my birth and my activities, he doesn't have to come back. Chat vadeham punah janma naiti mameti sojana. So that's why it's important for us to also study the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the pastimes of Krishna to help us to understand the nature of his birth and his activities. And Janmashtami is a special time for doing this. And there's a beautiful pastime where, which is quite relevant to this topic. When Krishna was a baby, and he was accused of eating dirt. When the cowherd boys they reported to Mother Yashoda that Krishna's been eating dirt, they were trying to make trouble for him. And Mother Yashoda told Krishna to open his mouth. She got very angry and she made him open his mouth because she wanted to see if it was true or not that he'd been eating dirt. And when Krishna opened his mouth, he manifested the whole creation, the whole material creation inside his mouth. So even to Mother Yashoda, he was proving to her that that he is everywhere, that he is God, and that everything exists within him. It was like a proof of that verse, which I quoted just before, that by me the entire universe is pervaded, the one from the Gita. So when Mother Yashoda saw this, she became bewildered. She became totally confused. She didn't know what was going on. But then very quickly Krishna, he made it go away, and he brought back his Yogamaya covering so that Mother Yashoda would see him just as her baby. Because in Vrindavan, usually he does not manifest his Godhead because he prefers to enjoy his pastimes with his intimate devotees as in the various rasas, Madhurya rasa and the parental rasa, Sakya rasa, like that. All these sweet rasas. So there is no discussion about Godhood in relation with Krishna in Vrindavan. But it's amazing how he actually performed that pastime in Vrindavan to Mother Yashoda, so that we can understand that how amazing it is that, that actually he's God and he's everywhere and he's controlling everything, but at the same time he's a little baby in the lap of his mother, who's eating dirt. And it is just so, well, mind-blowing, I could say. Because actually he is the beginning, the middle and the end of all existence. He's the cause of all causes. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Savakarna Karna. Krishna is the cause of all causes, the supreme controller, and his form is completely spiritual, made of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. That verse is from the Brahma Samhita. He is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. This is explained in the Bhagavatam. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdite. So he appears in these three ways. As Brahman, he diffuses, his energies are diffusing the whole creation. As Paramatma, he is present in the heart of every living entity. And as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is accepting the love and service of his devotees. And he also says that there is nothing superior to me, and everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. That is in Bhagavad Gita 7:7. That is a beautiful analogy. He is also the source of all divine qualities. So when we read the Nectar of Devotion, there is described by Srila Rupa Goswami the 64 qualities of Krishna. And that is really nectar to read about all the different personal qualities of Krishna. In all the major world religions are mainly monotheistic. So most religious people, they believe in God and in God as a person, theistic people. But we are very fortunate that but we actually have access to this information, that God is not only the Supreme Person, but who he is, what he looks like, his personality, all his beautiful qualities and characteristics, his beauty as the most attractive person, and all the wonderful pastimes that he engages in with his devotees, especially in Vrindavan. So all of this, and especially the Madhurya Rasa, it's something that is very difficult to find in any other religion. So we are very, very fortunate that Prabhupada has given us this treasure of Krishna consciousness. Krishna is the shelter, the guide, and the well-wisher of all living entities. So there is that verse, Bhaktaram Yagya Tapasam, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, Suridam Sarva Bhutana, Gyatva Mam Shantim Ripjati. And actually that verse explains that how the more that we remember Krishna and understand, the more we see and feel him, the more we become happy and peaceful. Gyatva Mam Shantim Ripjati, so means that by knowing me, says Krishna, we achieve peace. So by understanding that Krishna is Bhaktaram Yagya Tapasam, the enjoyer of all the sacrifices and austerities, in other words, that everything we do for him. And that he is Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, he's the the supreme controller of all the planets, of all the universes, and that he is Suridam Sarvabhutana, that he is the well-wishing friend of all living entities. So by remembering all of this, we Gyatva Mam Shanti Mrichati, we achieve peace and we become happy. So this is some of the benefits of remembering Krishna, as I was saying before. So, but until we reach a full Krishna consciousness, we need to practice by making a conscious effort to remind ourselves that Krishna is everywhere. It's not always easy. It does take time, and Maya is very powerful. So if you are forgetting Krishna, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't feel bad about it. It's all of us. We are all struggling with the material modes. Maya is very powerful. But Krishna becomes very pleased when he sees that we are trying to remember him, when he sees that we are trying to serve him, that we are trying to fulfill our vows by chanting our rounds every day, even if those rounds that we're chanting are full of offenses. And but Krishna is very pleased just to see that we are trying, that we're making an effort. And the more we make an effort, the more he will be pleased. But he becomes happy and pleased just by a little bit of service that anyone renders to him. So what to speak if we are trying to dedicate our lives to him? Then Krishna, he becomes very happy. So we have to keep going. And he's giving us this opportunity now to take a step back from the world and become more absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and to actually be introspective ourselves and to evaluate ourselves as well, to become more sincere and real, because we don't have to impress anyone. No, it's just us and Krishna. We don't have to impress anyone. So it's a good way that we can go deep within ourselves and try to dig up our anatas and face them and work on them. And by redoubling our efforts to be Krishna conscious, then we can get purified. By seeing Krishna everywhere, it's seeing. If we're confined to a small space, then we learn to see Krishna in that space. Because, like, for example, if we're going out to beautiful places, we appreciate the presence of Krishna and the beauty of nature. But if we have, maybe where we live, maybe we have a little garden with just a few flowers in it, but then we can see the presence of Krishna in just those little flowers. So whatever Krishna has given us, we can see his beauty and his presence there. And if we have only a few people to associate with, maybe our family members, then it's a good opportunity to work on those relationships, on improving those relationships. And that is also very pleasing to Krishna, because Actually, he brings us together with other souls for a reason. It's not by chance that we are in association with our family members, our friends, our relatives, even our neighbors, whoever we are interacting with. Every interaction that we have is arranged by Krishna. And every interaction we have is an opportunity to share Krishna consciousness. Whether it's just in a way of just being nice to people, just being kind to people, that is also sharing Krishna consciousness. But the best way of being kind to people is by sharing spiritual knowledge as well. But in order to share our spiritual knowledge, whether it's directly or indirectly through our own example, we need to cultivate good relationships where we're actually communicating, where we're actually listening to each other and sharing and practicing empathy, empathetic listening, and where we're actually encouraging each other in our service. And where we're actually sharing love. So all the love that is coming from Krishna, if we become his instruments, if we become his representatives, and if we're feeling his love, then we're sharing that love. And that's also how we're sharing Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is in every atom. In every atom. It's said in, there's a purport by Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 42. And Prabhupada says that the Lord is all-pervading by the expansion of his partial representation, the Supersoul, who enters into everything that is. So this means it's not just into the heart of the living entity, but also into every atom. The Lord is there in every atom. And that is quite an amazing fact to meditate upon, because it's not easy to understand. So it's really something very deep for us to meditate on. And also the fact that everything that happens is sanctioned by him. Like not a blade of grass moves without his sanction, without his will. We feel the presence of Krishna also by remembering that his hands are there behind everything that happens. Everything that happens is, he sanctioned it. So by remembering that, it helps us not to put blame on people when we have some negative experience. By remembering that Krishna's hand is there, and there's always something to learn from it. Everything happens for a reason. Nothing is random. So whatever happens to us, we need to turn around and look at it and see, try to understand, what is Krishna teaching me here? What do I have to learn from this? So that's another very important way of perceiving Krishna's presence everywhere in every situation, even in adversity. For example, there is this terrible disease that is traveling around the world. People are getting sick, people are dying. And this disease is also Krishna as a purifying agent. Krishna comes in the form of disease as a purifying agent. So when we get sick, we get purified. And it helps us to try to prepare for the time of death. When the time comes that we have to leave this body, we hope that we will be surrounded by devotees here in Kirtan. And maybe Krishna will arrange this for us. But we don't know for sure. So that's why if we feel the presence of Krishna, then we don't have to be afraid even of death. Even if we have to die alone, we're never alone because Krishna is always with us. And as long as we remember that, as long as we always remember to take shelter of him in any difficult situation, then we don't have to be afraid of anything. And that is an example. Prabhupada was like that. Abhay Charanarvindam, Prabhupada's name was Abhay. He was a fearless. And you could see from his activities how he, at an advanced age, and he got on a ship and went to the West on the order of his spiritual master, suffered 2 heart attacks on board the ship, just to go and try to deliver Krishna consciousness to the West, to save all the fallen souls like us. And so like for the first almost a year, he was pretty much alone. And but he didn't feel alone because he could feel the presence of his spiritual master and the presence of Krishna. And he would just go out and sit down in a park with a pair of cartels and chant Hare Krishna. And then people started coming. That's how he attracted the first potential disciples. And they started coming, and that's how the Hare Krishna movement started. And now it's a huge society all over the world. Because of Prabhupada's fearless devotion and faith in Krishna. So that is the best example I could think of. And also, when we think about the gopis in Vrindavan, they were always remembering Krishna and feeling separation from Krishna. So even though they didn't think of Krishna as God, they only thought of Krishna as that beautiful boy playing the flute who had captivated their hearts. But they could never forget him, and they were always remembering him. So they are the topmost lovers of Krishna, and the topmost female examples, headed by Srimati Radharani, of pure lovers of Krishna who always remembered him and never forgot him, and were feeling his presence even in separation. So the more we become Krishna conscious by seeing Krishna everywhere, in every situation, the more we can also spread Krishna consciousness to others. Sorry, how much time do I have? How long should I talk for? I forgot if there's any fixed time or anything.
We still got 45 minutes. If you would like,
Okay.
if you can talk for 15 minutes, then we can open the floor for questions.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So what I was going to say is that by seeing Krishna everywhere, this is also very important for spreading Krishna consciousness. So the more we become Krishna conscious, the more we become like powerhouses of Krishna consciousness to spread light to others. And by seeing Krishna in everyone, we don't make a separation. Like we can connect with people rather than seeing that, oh, this is a non-devotee, this is a devotee, this is a non-devotee. Of course, we see the difference. But at the same time, rather than seeing this as a non-devotee, we could see this is actually a devotee, but this person doesn't know yet that he or she is a devotee. Because in the higher sense, because everyone is connected with Krishna, because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna, so by seeing everyone as a potential devotee of Krishna, we can help them to come back to Krishna. Just like Lord Chaitanya said that he gave this instruction, it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that wherever you go, whoever you meet, tell them something about Krishna. That was instruction he gave to Grihastha, that you don't have to necessarily take sannyas in order to become a preacher. But whoever you meet, just try to share some Krishna consciousness with them. Whether it's directly or indirectly. We need to use our intelligence to find ways to connect people to Krishna. in a way that they can feel comfortable with. And we need to be always looking for opportunities to spread Krishna consciousness in different ways, starting with ourselves and then connecting that with others. So like for example, we may not use the name Krishna if we're talking to someone of another religion or who doesn't know about Krishna. We may rather talk about God, or we may even, well, depending if the person is religious, believes in God, then we talk about God, and then in that way we connect, because God is a universal term in every religion, and most of the major world religions teach monotheism. And the dictionary definition of God is the supreme being, which implies that there is only one God, because if there were more than one, none of them would be supreme. So that is a way of explaining to people who don't get that there's only one God and we're all worshipping the same God. And those who are intelligent, they can understand that God is one. So as devotees, we, as I was saying before, we are fortunate to have been introduced to the most beautiful form of God and to have access to a lot of information about his form, his qualities and his pastimes. And for people who are worshipping with awe and reverence, who are stuck in their own traditions, they may find it difficult to relate to that initially, because they may see God as an old man with a beard, sitting on a throne, or in many cases they have quite a vague perspective of God, quite a vague sort of concept, vision of God, but still they feel his presence. When they pray to him, they can feel his presence. So they can understand to some degree that God is everywhere, and that is also taught in Christianity, in Islam, Judaism, in Buddhism. Although Buddhism, they tend to be more impersonalist. But only the ones who are open-minded, they can take up Krishna consciousness. But still, Prabhupada used to say that that we should encourage people of other religions to follow their own religions rather than trying to convert them to Krishna consciousness. We should encourage them to follow their own religions, because people don't usually want to be converted. Of course, if they want to be converted, that's fine, but we shouldn't push them, but rather encourage them to follow their own religions. And because every religion actually has the same ultimate goal, if although it's not always understood by everyone in these religions, but they all have the same ultimate goal, which is to attain love of God. So in that way we can connect and try to inspire people of different religions to to progress, and also encourage them to practice vegetarianism like that, because Krishna doesn't accept non-vegetarian offerings. Today also many people are either impersonalist, agnostic, or atheist. Many people have lost faith in organized religion for various reasons, because of religious wars, politics, because of the way religions are taught with fanaticism or dogma, because of also abuse that's taken place. So today, a lot of people are more interested in spirituality than religion. And so we need to start a conversation based on spirituality rather than religion, which is actually in line with our teachings. Because as Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is a spiritual science, not a religion. He didn't want us to present it as a religion, as otherwise people think that we are Hindu, and but that is not exactly what we are. We are we don't see ourselves as being Hindus, because that's a kind of a restrictive designation. We don't want to be restricted by that designation, because we want to be able to teach Krishna consciousness to people who are not necessarily Hindus, who don't necessarily want to follow Hindu religion. And just as Prabhupada taught Krishna consciousness to us, not as a Hindu religion, but as a spiritual science. So our task, which is quite a big task, is to try to convince people that God exists and that he is a person, because there's a lot of impersonalism, and that's why Prabhupada composed his own prayer, a pranam mantra, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Desha Tarine, that he came to deliver the Western countries from impersonalism and voidism. So that is Prabhupada's mission, and that is our mission, to continue that on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. So we need to come up with, Prabhupada wanted us to actually come up with ideas how to spread Krishna consciousness, to be constantly coming up with new ideas, how to spread Krishna consciousness to non-believers, to impersonalists, to academics, to scientists. So there are various philosophical arguments and scientific arguments that we can use. Because today people are very much believing in science. And science has kind of become the new religion, in one sense, you could say. And science mean material science, in the sense that everything has to be proven materially, with facts and figures, with data, with experimentation. So, which means that metaphysical science has been pushed to the side, and there's become a kind of disconnect between spirituality and science. And we need to try to reconnect spirituality and science. Just like for example, hundreds of years ago, in the time of the Renaissance, for example, at that time, religion and science, they were studied together, they were united together. And the greatest scientists, they were religious, like Isaac Newton and others. And it actually it continued like that for hundreds of years until about the time of the Industrial Revolution, when there was a split between the scientists and the church. And so we need to try to gradually bring together science and religion again, or science and spirituality. And like for someone who just believes in science, who doesn't believe in metaphysics, that actually doesn't make sense. Because, for example, morals and values are metaphysical. Everyone has morals and everyone has values. But morals and values are metaphysical. There is no such physical object as a moral or a value. It's not something you can experiment on in a laboratory. It's not something that you can see or touch. So that means it's metaphysical. But everyone has moral. Like for example, equality. The Western political system of democracy is based on the principle of equality. Equality is metaphysical. There is no such thing as equality in the material world, because if you look around, you'll see that people are not equal. Physically, they're not equal. In terms of physical bodies, they're not equal. In terms of IQ, academic achievement, in so many ways, people are not equal. They're all on different levels. They've all got different material designations. But there's a very popular belief that that there should be equality. Everyone is striving for equality these days. Racial equality, gender equality. So many different types of equality and it's become a very much a fixed value in the world. But it is actually metaphysical. Equality is metaphysical. It doesn't exist in material terms. So, if you tell people, if people think about this, it means that if they believe in equality, if they believe that there should be morals, if they believe that people should not go around murdering children and raping women and, being psychopaths, that means they believe in good and evil. They believe that they want to be good people. They don't want to be evil. That means they believe that that we live in a bi-dimensional universe, which includes a metaphysical plane of existence. So this is like the first argument towards the existence of God, because first of all, there's that proves that there's a metaphysical universe, because the realm of metaphysics is beyond the reach of empirical science. So it's not possible to prove with science that God exists, but it's also not possible to prove scientifically that God does not exist. And by using a logic, it's possible to make it appear, it's possible to make a point, to make a stance for the existence of God, to make a very strong stance for the existence of God. by logic or many logical arguments. Like, for example, if there's a metaphysical plane of existence, then there must be a cause of that. And the cause of that must be something beyond what we can see and what we can experience physically. And scientifically, many scientists are actually coming to realize more and more and to actually acknowledge that there is a higher intelligence behind the universe, because the more they study science, like they go into quantum physics, and the more they see the complexities of the way things work, the more they become convinced that there must be a higher intelligence behind it all. It's not possible for all that to just fall into place randomly. And so if there's a higher intelligence, there must be a higher being. And if there's a higher being, and if this higher being is the cause of everything, and we have personalities, then how is it possible for an impersonal entity to create personalities? How is it possible for him to give us personalities if he doesn't have a personality himself? So you see, that is a logic. And there's also the principle of self-evident truth, which is a principle that was actually put forward by Plato. And that is when something cannot be proved by circular reasoning, then it has to be accepted as a self-evident truth. And the self-evident truth is that so many people experience the presence of God in their daily lives. If so many millions of people are experiencing the presence of God, then for them that is a self-evident truth. And other people should also consider that as a self-evident truth. And we can invite people to perform an experiment, because as George Harrison quoted in the beginning of the Krishna book, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we can invite people to experiment, to try chanting, to try to practice this chanting, and also to try to give up meat eating and intoxication, etc., and to try with this chanting, and then to experience for themselves the truth and the reality of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so I think I've gone over my time now. So I'll stop there. And yeah, if anyone's got any question or anything, then we can go with that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, dear Mother Jaganathesvari. We are all enjoying hearing you speaking, and looking up the comments on Facebook. There's so many comments of thank you for speaking, and they are so touched to hear your programs. I would like to, before I go on to the questions, I'd like to read out a comment by. Oh, did I lose it? Oh, yes, there's it here. By Rajalila Dixon Prabhu. So she writes, "My dear Jaganathesvari, thank you so much for this devotee. Devotees are kind to everyone. Your kindness of contributing such an instructive book for Grihastas is deeply appreciated. With love, Rajalila Dixon.
Thank you, Lila.
Moving on to a question. This comes from Facebook. Dear Mother Jaganathesvari, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity to hear from you. Thank you for giving us reassurance, confidence, and patience in our faltering attempts to chant and practice our devotional service. Krishna showed his majesty to Lord Brahma so that Lord Brahma could understand the position of that little boy that he saw and wanted to know who he really is. Mother Yashoda is an eternal resident of Vrindavan. Why then did he show his majesty to his mother? Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yes, that's a good question, because it is very unusual for Krishna to show his godhood in Vrindavan, when he's together with his intimate devotees, such as his mother. Although he showed that, and we have to remember that although he did show her that, but then afterwards he made her forget it again. So it was just like a momentary. I mean, I can't really, I can't say that I'm an authority to say, oh, this is the reason, that is the reason, without looking at what the previous acharyas said. So I can give an idea, and just from my own opinion, but it's just my own opinion, you could say. I mean, you could say that was kind of like a trick, like a naughty trick. You know, like children, sometimes they play naughty tricks with their mothers. So I think he was playing a naughty trick with his mother, because she was looking in his mouth. She was looking for mud, and then he opened his mouth and he showed her the entire cosmic manifestation. She was expecting to find a piece of mud there. So so he was playing a trick in one sense. Like, I mean, he was showing his godhood, and that's also for all of us as the readers to understand that, so that we can be amazed to see that, just to make us remember that who this person is actually, and look what he's doing, so that we don't just maybe think that this is a mundane pastime, a mother and a child, the child swallowed mud. You know, why would, you know, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of all the universes, why would he be interested to eat dirt like a little baby? So he's not just a little dirt-eating baby. If he did put some dirt in his mouth, that was not ordinary dirt, and he's not an ordinary baby. That was a transcendental pastime. So to make us remember his transcendental nature, that was revealed, his godhood was revealed. But then very quickly, he covered it over, and he made his mother forget it. So she got confused, she got bewildered, what's going on? She didn't really then think that Krishna's God, or maybe it might have just crossed her mind, but then it went away, and he made her forget everything, and then she just saw her little baby there in her lap again. So yeah, there's a few different reasons, as I've suggested, and there may be others as well.
Another question is, how do we see Krishna's presence in a situation in which we are having difficulties working or serving with devotees? Can we accept that we won't be able to serve with all devotees and simply keep a respectful distance from those we value but struggle to work with?
Okay. Yes, I understand. I understand the question. I understand what you're saying. I think this is something that, you know, we can all relate to. I would say that we should try to get along with everyone. We should try to work with everyone. Now, obviously, there are some that we're going to click with more than others, according to our natures and according to our, you know, progress in Krishna consciousness or whatever, according to our approaches. So we try to get on with everyone, but we're going to have different relationships with different devotees because we are all individuals. And as Prabhupada said, that is one of the proofs of our individuality, is the fact that we have different opinions. So when we're doing service, I may think this is the best way to do this service. Someone else may think, no, this is the best way to do this service. And so sometimes we have to just agree to disagree. And but at the same time, we can carry on serving together. Sometimes we may even have to keep a respectful distance when things get difficult. And that's also okay. But the thing is that, as I was saying before, that Krishna brings us together with certain people so that we can learn from each other. And so we should really try to get along the best we can. Because by learning to get along with other devotees, by learning from each other, we learn to practice humility. We learn to understand each other better. Because the more we understand each other, then the more we get to know each other, then the closer we become and the more appreciative we become of each other's qualities. Because at the end of the day, everyone is a part and parcel of Krishna. And we are together for a reason. When it comes to service, we will end up serving with similar nature, because we have a similar service interest, then we probably have a similar nature. But if there are differences, then we can respect those differences, but at the same time try to find the positives, try to find the things we have in common that we can relate on, and work with those. Is that okay?
Thank you for such a helpful answer. Because I think it's quite instructive, and it provides wonderful guidance of how to approach such a situation. Thank you. Okay, we got time for one more question. Hare Krishna, dear mother. My question is related to your point on interfaith preaching. I was fortunate to be raised in a strong faith in the teachings of Christ, and then later in life joined ISKCON, and hope to be able to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission as long as Krishna permits me. I am at the point when actually I've deepened my love for Jesus through developing my relationship with Krishna. I feel that slowly but surely I should try to understand the scriptures and connect them with the Bible. How can we practice bhakti while being rooted in multiple faiths, be a devotee pastor without compromising any of them, and hopefully bringing people closer to God? What qualities are the most important to cultivate to preach in a interfaith perspective?
Well, that's really wonderful that that you're doing that. To be a devotee and at the same time to preach in a Christian community about Jesus, and that shows great broad-mindedness, and yeah, I think that's what you're doing. So since I'm not doing that, perhaps you know more about it than I do, but I mean, all I could say is that Jesus was a pure devotee, as Prabhupada also said that, pure devotee of the Lord. And the teachings of Jesus Christ are very much in line with the with Vaishnava teachings. So there isn't really any contradiction. Because actually all religions are coming from the same spiritual roots. All religions are coming from a similar spiritual experience. And the differences between religions have come about as a result of cultural differences, geographical differences, and things like that, which are all external. But internally, the root is the same, the goal is the same. Of course, in the Vedic literatures, we have a lot more information. And as Prabhupada gave the example of a small dictionary and a big dictionary, the Bible is like a smaller dictionary, and the Vedic scriptures like a bigger dictionary. They have more information in them, but they still the meanings are the same. So I think that the qualities are also the same. You were asking about what qualities. The same qualities are upheld in Christianity and other religions, as well as in Vaishnavism, such as humility and compassion, kindness, and forgiveness, sacrifice, gratitude, faith, and love. So all of these are kind of divine qualities which are intrinsic to all religions and spiritual paths. And so I don't see any contradiction there. And yeah, please carry on your preaching. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, thank you so much for always giving us such sweet and caring seminars. And thank you for giving us your time today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I took up too much time and there's not enough time for all the questions now.
No problem. This just means that we should have more seminars with you. Dear Vaishnavis, thank you so much for your wonderful questions and for spending time with us in celebrating our, our pre-Janmashtami programs. For those that are on Zoom, this is a fun opportunity to turn on your video and unmute yourself to give a warm Haribol to Mother Jaganathesvari.
Haribol! Haribol! Haribol!
Haribol! So nice to see you all. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jaganathesvari Mataji, I just wanted to say I really appreciated the argument that you made for the existence of God, based on people's need to have like a moral division between good and evil. I thought that was it's a really strong and convincing argument, which I've never heard before. But I felt like it comes from someone that has a very deep conviction about the existence of God. But thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I have learned from my teachers.
Thank you, everybody, for joining in, and see you tomorrow for the next program. Haribol.
Thank you.